the glacier changes every year up there, just on Begbie from what we can see from the property last time.
I mean, that's the thing with farming, like, and humans, we like, you know, kind of like stability.
A company that wants to greenwash is going to put a nice picture of a worker in southwestern Asia.
But if you have less than 10% of the world's population interested in saving the world, it's not going to work.
I've gotten pretty excited lately because the conversations I'm having with the people in our community, they're empowering, and you can see all the different actions people are choosing to better the world. And the fact is every little action we have echoes, and that echo will just reverberate and cause more change. It's definitely energizing standing up here looking down at the community of Revelstoke and thinking of all those people whose actions are amplifying each other's and just creating bigger and better change. We built these greenhouses, we built about 5 of these. And they're these incredible things because they start with these tiny little plants, and then within the space of 3 months, you've all of a sudden got 8-foot tall plants like pumping out all these tomatoes. And typically I can and make kind of pasta sauces or salsas with this, and got a tomato like that. Pretty much grew a perfect tomato. Look at that thing. Or these purple ones. Look at this thing. Look how purple that is. But again, all of this is just an attempt at just having less draw on the system and being more responsible for my needs. Quickly realized after about 6 months, 8 months, is that my family actually doesn't eat that many eggs. So to me, this was a great lesson because it turns out that some choices aren't the right ones. And, you know, insulated my whole house, you know, there's been a lot of garbage created just to make my house more energy efficient. So hopefully in the next 25 years, it's gonna save enough energy to make up for all the energy that I had to put into making it more energy efficient. And that's kind of the thing, is like nothing's perfect, but we have to try these options. And like the chicken coop over here, I tried it and it didn't quite work for me, and I mean, that's fine. But you know, I'm gonna keep trying all these different things, and the ones that work, well, I'll stick to them, and I'll just try to have a little less of a footprint that way. How secure are we food-wise? What percentage of food do we actually eat that's grown within, let's say, 100 miles?
I think it's like less than 5%. That's a guesstimate, but last time I looked, I think it was like less than 6 or 5%. Yeah. Most of our food is coming from some bigger, larger system. And like we felt last fall, like that system can fall apart so easy. One washed out highway and all of a sudden, like 95% of our food isn't coming to us, right? So that's a massive system that we work in, and so the local food initiative is just working towards shrinking that food system a little bit and making it more accessible to everyone within our community. We can't access everything and we can't grow everything, so it means that we need to plan, and it means that we need to rely on people like the Revelstoke Local Food Initiative to get us to a place where we're a little bit more secure. So making sure that you get involved and you plant your own garden and you learn how to plant your own garden, or you
and grow better,
and you grow better because of advice we hopefully gave you, and it works. Or you meet your local farmers via some of our other programs, and maybe you're not a grower, but you can support that local business. I know you're connected with a local farmer, and it's so important to connect to those people and support those people and make sure that they're able to to continue to do their jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
This giant system that we have of shipping everything to us, it's not working.
It's not.
And so figuring out a way to get out of that a little bit is a great way.
And I kind of think the food tastes a lot better. Personally, not only the food I've grown at home, but also just going to the local market and knowing I'm buying from that farmer that I shook hands with and that I gave them my cash.
Yeah,
and then,
you feel really good about it.
Yeah, it really does.
And also, it's like a good way to, like, if you're having a bad day, you need someone to boost your confidence up, like go and buy something local and they'll like tell you how great you are for doing it.
Well, let's just say we just had a kid, but so far farming is a lot harder than having a kid. Yeah. Sure, you're not going to get rich out of it, but we can make a living at it. That's super important, because if you're just doing something that's good for the climate and it doesn't actually work, then that has a shelf life. Is farming for everybody? Absolutely not. Like, we're doing it and we're passionate about it, but I'm kind of at this stage where I just encourage people, if they have an idea that they think that is going to be better for the climate, they should act on it. And it's not going to be perfect overnight. It's not this like perfect solution. You're working towards doing better, and if everybody acts on their ideas, they're not all going to work out, and that's totally okay. But I think we're at the point now where we recognize that climate change is a massive problem, and we're going to need everybody to get on board and just try.
Last summer we had a really horrible heat wave, and then we were engulfed in smoke for about 6 weeks straight, and that made farming really challenging. You just didn't want to be outside.
Your tomatoes had a bit of a smoky flavor to them, but they're...
Yeah, yeah, vintage smoky.
We could be producing a ton of food in this valley. Right now, like, we're growing on 1.5 acres. There's acres and acres and acres of farmland around here. But we could, like, be a really sustainable community if people choose to do what we're doing.
And yeah, if the whole valley kind of jumped on board, we could grow a lot more food here. But I mean, we have to have examples like yours to really see that it's possible.
It's super fun, like being on the trying side of the solution problem. I think it's like, it makes you feel good about it, makes you feel hopeful.
One of the realities about being a human and living is that we use a lot of energy. So one of my goals this summer was to make my house less energy intensive. So I spent a lot of time insulating the whole thing, putting on new triple pane windows, insulating the attic, and just making it so it's going to hold the heat better, either the cold in the summer or the heat in the winter. And it's just going to use a lot less energy to keep my family comfortable. I also added on solar panels, which is super exciting because now I'm taking the energy from the sun and then I'm putting it right into my car and into my adventures. And that's been really fun, every day watching to see how much energy we created just from passively using the sun. So, I mean, the truth is that everything has an impact. Building these solar panels has an impact because they've got to mine all the metals and everything for it. But in the long run, having these on my roof is going to be way better than drawing off the system and using coal power or any other powers that are out there. This is just a better way. It's definitely getting cheaper and cheaper every year, and it's becoming much more accessible for Canadians to do. It'd be fun if I was standing on this roof and I'd look and I see them on every other roof, but right now in Canada you don't really see that. I don't see any. And so I'm kind of just doing it, one, as a statement that we all have to be more responsible for our energy uses, and two, to also show that if it can work here in Revelstoke, it probably can work anywhere else, because we get a lot of snow here. Yeah, I guess something we're all encountering lately is the greenwashing that your website Tuya is trying to address. And I guess how is it helping address that?
You know, I learned about greenwashing a lot, and I could see like all these brand greenwashing, and I was like, how can we help people tell the difference between a brand that's actually greenwashing and the one that does good? And also it started with the frustration in Revelstoke to see all these people that love the outdoor and use it as a playground, and when it comes to their choices, it would not translate. And I believe it was not bad faith, like people wanted to.
Yeah, people would love to change,
yeah.
They just want, it's just murky, and that's what Tuya is, your website's going to help, is it's going to help give people the right direction, which companies are actually not greenwashing and doing the right things, and which companies are greenwashing and that you should buy, like we should buy with our ethics, and that's what kind of you're helping, I think.
Exactly, like it's, you know, a lot of people say you vote with your credit card or with your bank account, and it's true, and unfortunately with marketing that's very efficient, we as consumer, we just get tricked all the time, constantly, because it's almost impossible to see behind the curtain of what these brands do. And so we try to go behind it, like tackle all this greenwashing to show to people, here you go, that's all these brands, that's how they rate, and these guys are good, and you can explore in details why, and you can tell that these guys are not so good, and they're kind of lying about it. And that's the goal. We want to give that power to people. You can't tackle climate change and overconsumption by selling more stuff. And so we want to tell people, you have to buy secondhand every time you can. You have to fix your gear and keep it. Once in a while, when you actually need some gear and you really need it, then buy from the good guys. And because it's to tell that everything has an impact, and we can't avoid that, but we used to keep our clothes for 20 years, 10 years, and we got into an era when it was every year, new clothes.
Right now,
new clothes.
80% of people's clothing is only used for 1 year, and then
Exactly.
they replace it. 80%, like that's mind-boggling. Like,
Yeah, you need to have kind of compassion and love in both sides, and what I mean by that is like, even for people that are destroying nature, sometimes it's, you know, it's their job and they're just making a living, and you need to build that compassion, and it helps you take a step back and be like, okay, we have to find solutions that works for everyone ideally, and it's all about love, really, like love for nature, but people around you.
instead of me muddling around and trying to explain what you do, can you explain the two companies that you're kind of working on in your backyard here?
So Living Fragments is an upcycled textile botanical dye project, and Blumenaxilla is probiotic deodorant, biodegradable packaging, exploring cosmetics that are really eco-conscious and also ethical. I harvest calendula kind of daily. I come out and I just pick, I don't know, maybe like half of the blooms and dry them out, and then I infuse them into oil, and I use that oil in my deodorant. Living Fragments was a project that I started just to make upcycled clothing, and what happened is very quickly I was like, gee, it would be nice if I could turn white sheets into something more interesting. That took me to the garden, where I started to learn about botanical dyes. This is called madder root, and it's responsible for the red dye that we saw on the British redcoats. So it's kind of like a historical plant, and it takes 3 years to produce color. So I've had this overgrown madder bed that was like attacking my kid's sandbox for the last, I think, 4 years.
You literally
actually
grew this on your property here?
Yeah, it's kind of fun because I can just re-dye my shirt when it starts to fade. So that's sort of where I see longevity of clothing coming in, is like, if you're learning how to natural dye things, then you can just keep refreshing your clothes and they look like new when you dye them again. So I had to have a career that I did not like very much to really take a step down this path. But I was like, well, I need to dedicate myself to something that is making a difference, because working any other way just kind of amplifies the anxiety that I was feeling.
One of the things in BC that makes EV adoption so much more fun and exciting is that 98% of our electricity is from BC hydro, from dams, from water, from basically all the snow that I ski in the winter melting and going through these dams and powering all the EVs around the province. So yeah, it's really fun in that respect, because it just feels like the circularity of this, where, you know, it's the energy of the sun through my solar panels that charges my car and onwards, or like I'm skiing in the winter and I'm skiing on the snow that's melting and it's eventually going to go through a dam and power my car for my next adventure. And that whole circularity stuff, it's fun, it's a cool process. It doesn't feel like you're just consuming, you're actually part of a cycle. You know, at least for me, my biggest standpoint is that I'm not perfect, and I'm never going to be perfect, but I'm just trying to find these solutions to these problems we have. And there's naysayers out there, but I think for me, if I just adopt that stance where, like, I understand that I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, we're never going to be perfect, but we're just trying to find progress in the right direction. What I think is super interesting is Mario came to a talk I did a bunch of years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking about sustainable adventure and stuff, and it kind of sparked an interest in him. And then now that we're meeting up years later, he's driving this wicked car, says eco adventure, and I guess I should ask you, what do you think sustainable adventure means? Like,
to me, well, first when I saw you talk, that, like, you know, I had it running in my head already about sustainable adventure, but you were really like just doing it, and you had the car, and you know, you demonstrated that. Like, and this was around the time that, you know, there weren't really electric charging stations around.
yeah, it wasn't happening.
So you were the OG of doing this. And so when I think of sustainability and eco-travel and adventures, I think about how to encourage others to be in the outdoors.
Yeah, because if you're going to want to protect it, you probably have to experience it. I don't think it's you want to protect something you've never experienced. So
100%.
the more people that we can get out into the outdoors, the more stewards for the environment that we'll have.
I think in a way, our cars are more mascots than anything else. Mascots to you know, to push the initiative of sustainable adventure and travel.
Yeah, they're like a symbol that this is somebody who's trying to be better and cares and is looking for solutions and also getting out here. One of the things that we all can do is we can actually influence a lot of people, and not just in our little circles, but now with social media, you can kind of influence people far away and even in different countries. So just showing them what's possible kind of can spark an interest, and all of a sudden, like you were saying, the more people we get out here, the more people will want to help protect it. Speaking of energy, this lake here is a reservoir to the Revelstoke Dam that's creating a lot of electricity that's powering both of our cars for our next adventure.
Boom. Oh, that's awesome, actually. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, that's just pretty neat. I do get it. I get that it's hard, and you see somebody like me who's like out in this beautiful place, and it seems easy for me to climb these mountains and make these changes, but we're kind of all in the same boat, and it's hard for me, it's hard for all of us to make these changes, but I'm not gonna be perfect, you're not gonna be perfect, but we can progress towards a better place. And it's from sustainable clothing to websites that help people make choices to just adventuring with less of a footprint. And the fact is every little action we have echoes, and that echo will just reverberate and cause more change. And that is exciting. And you know, we have a choice. You can choose to be pessimistic, or you can choose hope, and you can take positive actions.
The next shiny new thing. Bring me the next shiny new thing. Bring me the next shiny new thing. Bring me the next. Bring me the next shiny new thing.